Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We just had a magnitude 6.1 earthquake strike Turkey near the city of Izmir, and this is the biggest release of global seismic energy in the past week, going back to August 3rd. Now back on July 29th, there was that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. Most of the global seismic activity has been off the coast of Kamchatka. Now we're starting to see some global seismic energy release in other places. And just about 8 to maybe 12 hours before this earthquake ruptured, we had Mount Etna erupt in Sicily. Not a massive explosion, but there was a flank eruption, a lava flow about 300 meters in length going down the side. And so this is showing a clear increase in the energy in this specific part of the world right here, following all these energetic increases that we've had globally. And now solar activity is picking back up. We've had a bunch of solar flares over the past week. We just got out of a G2 geomagnetic storm. We are still in a solar wind high-speed stream, and the solar wind density is now dropping below 1 particle per cubic centimeter, which is that threshold that we look for as it relates to global seismic activity increasing, because there seems to be a pretty clear connection between there being very low solar wind density and increased global seismicity. So this magnitude 6.1, not a massive earthquake, but everyone in this region there felt that. We have some people that subscribe to the channel. They immediately posted, hey, we were in Izmir, we felt the shaking. And that is a big earthquake. Of course, you'll remember back in April, there was a 6.2 that ruptured near Istanbul. And so this area is very seismically active. And we're expecting there to be probably a higher magnitude 6 or 7 near Istanbul in the near future. I'm not saying like tomorrow or next week, but probably in the next few decades based off of how the Northern Anatolia Fault has been rupturing. And it's interesting, the epicenter of this magnitude 6.1 is basically right in between all the recent magnitude 6 earthquakes that have occurred in this region over the past 6 months or so, really 2025. So in this video, we're going to examine this earthquake and then also the solar activity and space weather, and let's get right into it. Here we have our USGS latest earthquakes map, and this is showing that magnitude 6.1 there being one of the most recent earthquakes that just occurred. And we see that there was an aftershock that followed up right behind at a magnitude 4.2. Both of these, as of right now, being pegged to a depth of 10 kilometers. But this area has been quite active in 2025. But just before we get to that data, let's just look at what else has been happening over the past 24 hours. We also did have a magnitude 5.9 earthquake hit near Guam, and then there was an aftershock. Then another earthquake there, 4.5, that was an aftershock. This is along this volcanic arc there. And we've been seeing, of course, all these earthquakes up here in Kamchatka. This swarm is continuing and continuing and continuing after that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. You'll notice that they've been moving more towards the south-southwest. So if I go here to our 30 days, we'll see the location of that magnitude 8.8. Okay, so it's the cyan circle there. Look how everything has shifted down like this. Most of the big aftershocks were right in this zone there. As you can see, the 7.4 that occurred as a foreshock actually. Here we have that 8.8 again. Here's the 6.9. But now it's starting to migrate down south-southwest. And so global seismicity has been dominated by that megaquake and the aftermath of that, but now we're starting to see other parts of the globe wake up. And this area in 2025 has been quite active. Let's check it out. Here we have a map showing all the seismicity magnitude 5 and greater for this region here for the past 365 days. And so here we see our most recent earthquake, magnitude 6.1, the one that just ruptured today. You'll notice some other magnitude 6 earthquakes here in this list, and also I put in the magnitude 5s. The reason I put in the magnitude 5s is because of this earthquake swarm that we had off the coast of Santorini back in February. So that started on January 28th and then went basically all the way till the end of February, but really started to ramp down right at the middle of February And overall, collectively, the magnitude of this was about a 6.4 or so. So this is in fact the zone of the biggest seismic energy release for the past year, but none of those earthquakes got over magnitude 5.5 if I recall correctly. None of them were magnitude 6. It was just a combination, thousands of earthquakes, a lot of them magnitude 5, 4, and below. You'll also see here the 6.2. That was on the 22nd of May. And then we see here just about 9 days before that, a magnitude 6 earthquake. So Crete, just off the coast, hit with 2 back-to-back magnitude 6s, and well, 6 and a 6.2. And then if we go up here, we'll see our 6.2 that struck just off the coast of Istanbul. And that was on the 23rd of April. So here is kind of the progression that has unfolded over the past 7 months or so. We had this earthquake swarm here off the coast of Santorini. And then the energy pinged up here in Istanbul in April, and then it pinged down to Crete here in May, back to back. And now we have had a magnitude 6 earthquake effectively right in between these two nodes. So I find that very interesting. And there's not like massive fault systems running right through here. You have a much more significant fault system there, and also with like the Hellenic Arc and more. But it is interesting to see this congruence of seismic activity here, and then this big earthquake there off Istanbul. And now following that progression, we've had this 6.1 there in Izmir. Also worth pointing out, the one other magnitude 6 in this region, because I went all the way to the edge of Turkey, is right here. This is a magnitude 6. This ruptured on October 16th of 2024. And so if we're just looking at magnitude 6s, it went here, and then it went over to the Aegean Sea and started pinging around like this. So that is the historic activity for this region over the past year. You'll see the other magnitude 5s kind of filling in some of these zones, but really this was quite significant. That swarm off the coast of Santorini, don't really know if that was just tectonic or volcanic. We know that there is a large volcanic field there. I'm inclined to believe that there were some volcanic processes that were unfolding deep underground that caused that swarm, but they haven't necessarily manifested at the surface with, let's say, like a big volcanic eruption. But we know these sort of things are possible. If you were to zoom over to Japan, you have Kakai volcano, which is very, very large, had a huge eruption about 7,300 years ago, 150 cubic kilometers of material, basically was unknown until it happened. And so similar dynamics are at play. You actually have a lot of similarities between Japan and the Aegean Sea in terms of earthquake swarms and volcanic activity, because there's similar geologic settings in some senses. So this whole area, quite active, and perhaps it's being reactivated today by the space weather activity. Let's check it out. And to do that, we're going to look at our sun, which allows us to see this large coronal hole on the sun right now. This is a deficiency of plasma in the solar corona, the outermost atmosphere of the sun. It's made up of this very highly vibrational and energized plasma. And when you have this dark spot, this is specifically showing up in like the 193 angstrom or 211 angstrom views. It shows that there's less plasma there, the temperature is lower, and that's because the magnetic field extends outwards and creates kind of like this draw, pulling all the ions in the corona out to outer space. And this creates a high-speed stream. It accelerates them to higher velocities. This would be like 600 kilometers per second, 700 kilometers per second, that then eventually sweeps by the Earth. So we see this very large coronal hole there, 2 smaller sections up there, and this is the 12th rotation of this. It has gone smaller basically since like rotation 7 and 8, but very slowly. So it's taking a long time to close up, and these sort of long-lived large coronal holes that hit Earth with their high-speed streams are a feature that we look for as it relates to global seismic activity and those rhythms and trends, because they seem to be connected to that. There's a fairly strong correlation, especially with coronal hole high-speed streams, and really specifically with solar wind density. It seems that when that drops anomalously low, I would say that's probably about under 1 particle per cubic centimeter. That's when we see global seismic activity increase. And that is what we've been tracking on the channel using the space weather and been fairly accurate with that. So if you'd like to stay up to date, then please subscribe. But what you'll also notice with our 193 angstrom view is a lot of these bright areas, and these are the sunspots on the Earth-facing side of the sun right now. So you'll see this crackling and bustling, a lot of activity. Sunspots are right about 170 at this moment in time. The monthly average for August thus far is 150. They did nearly get to 200. So sunspot activity is going back up after their super low count in May, which was under 80. Massive drop, really something we haven't seen in any of the solar cycles that we've been tracking for hundreds of years now. So quite bizarre, similar to solar cycle 15, but not exactly the same. This is increasing overall ionization of the ionosphere because these sort of sunspots and the solar flares that they produce, they charge up the ionosphere with their extreme ultraviolet and X-ray radiation. And when you have a stronger, more highly charged ionosphere, the uppermost part of Earth's atmosphere, made up about 1% plasma, maybe, there's now 2% plasma. There's more plasma created up there. It strengthens the global electric circuit, increases atmospheric conductivity, and all of these things are connected to earthquakes and other processes unfolding on the planet, volcanoes, weather, and more. So is it a coincidence that we had Mount Etna have a new eruption just hours before a magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck Turkey fairly close by in the global sense? That's up to you to decide. Personally, I don't think that's coincidence. I don't think it's the biggest thing ever, right? It's not a global catastrophe, but certainly it's a clue as to how the sun, the earth, and the cosmos are all connected together. Case in point, we can examine our solar flare activity. Now, this earthquake in Turkey occurred at 16:53 Universal Time today, August 10th, 2025. Here we see the past 3 days of solar activity, and this sort of solar flaring has been going on for more than 3 days now. But here we have this solar flare there, kind of a long duration, still increasing overall X-ray flux at this moment in time. But look at this. This peaked at 1510 and we see 1650 right here, right around there. And you'll notice that that is still elevated activity. So we had this solar flare and basically right afterwards we had that 6.1 earthquake in Turkey. But this is not super anomalous if we look at the 7-day range of X-ray flux, because we've been hit with a lot of M-class flares during this time frame and even going back just a little bit before this. And so solar activity is increasing now as it relates to solar flares, and we still have these coronal hole high-speed streams hitting us. Whereas back in May and June, we really didn't have any solar flares. Even like July, it was very minor. We did have some X-class flares in June, but just like a couple. But we had a lot of these coronal hole high-speed streams. Now we're getting both. So solar activity is picking back up again, and we just got out of a G2 geomagnetic storm. Let's check it out. Here we see our real-time solar wind for the past 7 days, and you'll notice that conditions were totally quiet before this coronal hole high-speed stream and coronal mass ejection came in simultaneously. So our KP index went down to below 1, so very quiet conditions geomagnetically. This is Earth's magnetic field. When you have enhanced solar wind or a solar storm hit it, it causes it to reverberate and vibrate and kind of move in position a little bit. And you get these flows of plasma which change Earth's magnetic field strength as being measured in space or at the surface. So our KP index measures these changes at the surface across the globe, creates like this global index, goes from 0 to 9. Once you hit 5, you're in a geomagnetic storm. So we went up to 5, stayed around 5 for quite a long time, each one of these bars being 3 hours. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 15 hours of G1 storming after these first 2 hits. And then we actually went up to a G2 storm right there. So that is going from 1500 to 1800 on the 9th of August, went up to a G2 storm, and that's right then when the solar wind magnetic field strength dived back down to about normal, which is where we are now. 6 nanotesla, 5 is about average. But we do see that our density is starting to maybe get anomalously low. We see a couple values there under 1. At this exact moment in time, it's 3, but we are starting to drop down. We see that we drop down here below 1. But as this solar wind velocity goes up, typically this density goes down. So this hasn't been the fastest high-speed stream impact yet. It did go to 600 kilometers per second. Now we're in that 500 range, slowly going down. We'll see if that picks up over the next couple days. But in general, we're starting to reach those lower solar wind densities, and we're starting to see global seismic activity pick up just a little bit. And let's not forget that Mount Etna in Sicily erupted just a few hours before this magnitude 6.1. So Mount Etna, Sicily, that's Italy, of course, and this earthquake occurred near Izmir in Turkey. So they are separated by some distance. The Aegean Sea lies in between them, but still fairly close in a global sense. So we can look at this data to see how powerful this eruption was. It wasn't the biggest, but it is worth noting. So we have our radiative power in a logarithmic scale here, and we see over the past year what's been happening in Mount Etna. Big eruption in February, as you can see, going up to very high levels. Some other spurts also reaching those very high zones. This is only a moderate explosion there. So there was a bit of an explosion, and then we had this lava flow going down the flank about 300 meters. It was 3,000 meters up or so. So not the biggest, but maybe a sign of future increases to come. Mount Etna has definitely been fairly active over the past year. And we see some of these thermal anomalies there. Right now it's at moderate according to this data. So this is August 9th right here. And then we see how it's been trending up with our megawatt power. Okay, so this is 5 megawatts of power back on the 9th. And then we see it slowly increased 16, 13, 64 when that lava flow occurred. And now we're starting to go back down again. So Mount Etna has erupted. Not the biggest, but definitely notable and perhaps a sign of things to come. We'll close out by looking at our 131 angstrom imagery of the sun so we can see these solar flares. Specifically 4168 there has been very active, and if it continues to have these sort of solar flares from the limb, we do have a chance of a radiation storm occurring in the next few days. So we'll have to watch what happens there, but that last one, as you can see, pretty long duration, and honestly makes me think that this is about to even get bigger. We're seeing just a lot of electrical activity there. So perhaps you get a big boom shakalaka from that in the next few hours to days. I'll keep you up to date. If you want to get your boom shakalaka on, I have this t-shirts now available at earthevolution.com/store. It says Earth Evolution on the front. Very simple, but then it has this really fun boom shakalaka icon on the back. Those are available in the United States, eventually internationally, but for now just US. So they come in that watermelon color, also banana. Please check that out if you're interested and want to join in on the fun. And teşekkürler, if you're from Turkey, merhaba, and thank you everyone for watching. Grateful for your support. Happy to present this info for you quite regularly. I release these sort of videos almost daily on what's happening with the Earth energetically. We examine earthquakes, volcanoes, Schumann resonances, and more. We also, of course, examine what's happening with the sun, solar activity, solar flares, space weather, even cosmic influences and beyond. If you like the sound of that, then please subscribe, smash that like button, help this channel grow. We are nearly at 400,000 subscribers. After that, we'll be on the road to 500,000. And honestly, understanding what's happening with the Earth and the sun and the cosmos is something that it's universal. I don't understand why more people aren't into this, honestly, because we have one planet. We have one star that we know of. Maybe we have a binary star, but we are pretty much here on this planet. That's it for right now. So we need to treat her with respect, and we should really do our utmost to understand what's happening on our planet, in our solar system, so we are not taken by surprise, because we don't want to get a game over screen in this life. So thank you all so much. I'll keep you up to date. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. Happy Sunday, and I'll see you all in the next video.